Imagine this. The world is just waking up. The faintest hint of sunlight peeks through your curtains. Still cocooned in the warmth of your bed, you instinctively reach for your phone. Within moments, you are catapulted into a universe of information. Your thumb glides over a parade of headlines. Earth-shaking political events in distant lands, dazzling breakthroughs in science and technology, stirring local stories from your own city. For hundreds of millions across the globe, this seamless, instantaneous access to news is as routine as morning coffee. It is all thanks to news aggregators like NewsNow, platforms that have revolutionized how we discover, consume, and share information. But what if, one day, this invisible magic is shattered? What if you tap on a headline, and instead of the story, you are confronted with a blunt message: access denied? This is not a hypothetical scenario ripped from the pages of a dystopian novel. It is unfolding right now, and it exposes a deeper, growing struggle at the core of our digital information ecosystem. Why are these stories being blocked? What are the forces driving this friction between news providers and aggregators? And most crucially, what does this mean for the future of free, open access to information? Something so many of us treat as a birthright. To unravel this, let's rewind the tape to the beginnings of news aggregation. In the late 1990s, as the internet was just beginning to stretch its wings, NewsNow emerged as a pioneering force. Founded in the United Kingdom, NewsNow's mission was audacious in its simplicity: gather stories from thousands of sources, ranging from global giants to tiny independent blogs, and offer users a real-time, panoramic view of the world's events. This was a game-changer. For the first time, the average person could access an unprecedented diversity of perspectives with just a few clicks. From its inception, NewsNow stood out by championing diversity and breadth. Today, it boasts that it drives approximately 70 million article views every single month, channeling readers to publishers of every size. It is not just about household names like The Times or The Guardian. NewsNow's reach extends to niche, regional, and fiercely independent outlets, voices that might have otherwise been drowned out in the digital cacophony. This commitment is not mere lip service. The platform's editorial team, a remarkably lean unit of just 7 dedicated professionals, meticulously curates the news stream. Every single publication is assessed against strict criteria: credible journalism, factual accuracy, editorial transparency. If a source is found to consistently produce misinformation or violate journalistic standards, it is excluded. And this is not a one-off process. The NewsNow team regularly reassesses all sources, ensuring that integrity and reliability remain at the heart of their ecosystem. This approach has earned NewsNow a reputation as a guardian of quality and diversity, supporting independent journalism and amplifying marginalized voices. On the surface, this seems like a perfect solution. Publishers gain valuable exposure and a steady flow of traffic. Readers benefit from an easy, one-stop shop for news from around the globe. And society, as a whole, is better informed. But beneath this apparent harmony lies a simmering tension, a fragile truce that is now being tested like never before. At the heart of this conflict is the economics of journalism. Producing quality news is not cheap. Investigative reporting, in-depth analysis, and foreign correspondence require immense investment in talent, time, and resources. Legacy news organizations have spent decades, sometimes more than a century, building their reputations and reporting infrastructure. Yet, in the digital world, aggregators can benefit by channeling readers to this content, often without sharing any revenue from the increased traffic. This is not a new tension. As far back as the late 2000s and single-digit years, major newspapers in the United Kingdom, such as The Times and the Daily Mirror, began to push back. In the year 2009, they made headlines by threatening, and in some cases actually blocking, NewsNow's web crawlers from accessing their content. Their logic was straightforward. Why invest millions in producing quality journalism only to have aggregators, making far smaller investments, capitalize on their work? Over time, publishers' concerns have only intensified. Digital advertising revenues, once seen as the future, have plummeted. Competition for readers' attention is fiercer than ever. In response, outlets both large and small are experimenting with new business models: paywalls, subscription programs, member clubs, and crowdfunding campaigns. These strategies are all designed to monetize content directly and lessen dependence on third-party aggregators or the unpredictable whims of online ad markets. But here's where the waters get murky. NewsNow maintains that it does not share in the revenue. Instead, it simply delivers readers to each publisher's site, leaving it up to them to monetize the traffic. For some, this is a fair deal. For others, it feels like free riding. As one industry expert explains, aggregation undeniably drives traffic, but publishers often view it as parasitic, profiting off their hard-won investments in quality reporting. This is the paradox at the heart of the digital news revolution. The very platforms built to democratize access to information are now, sometimes, accelerating its fragmentation. So what happens when more and more newspapers block aggregators or lock their stories behind paywalls? We begin inching toward a world where access to trustworthy, high-quality news depends less on curiosity and more on your willingness or ability to pay. Imagine a scenario. To stay informed, you need separate subscriptions for every major outlet. Instead of a global buffet of news, readers find themselves in isolated silos, each surrounded by its own paywall or access restriction. Information, once open and free-flowing, becomes a premium product, available only to those who can afford multiple monthly fees. This is not a distant threat. It is the reality in many places already. In recent years, dozens of prominent publishers across Europe, North America, and Asia have locked their content behind robust paywalls. Even small-town and regional papers are following suit, betting that direct reader support can offset collapsing ad revenues. The effect? The news ecosystem becomes more scattered, with fewer stories accessible to the broader public. And the stakes could hardly be higher. At its best, journalism is a pillar of democracy, holding the powerful accountable, exposing injustice, and equipping citizens to make informed choices. When access to credible news is restricted, democratic processes are threatened. The risk is not just that people will consume less news, but that they will turn, out of necessity, to lower quality or untrustworthy sources. In an era already awash with misinformation, rumors, and manipulative content, often turbocharged by artificial intelligence, this is a recipe for confusion, division, and even large-scale manipulation. Let's pause and step back to consider the broader historical context. This struggle between content creators and intermediaries is not unique to journalism. In the music industry, for instance, the rise of file-sharing platforms like Napster in the early 2000s sparked a fierce backlash from artists and record labels. After years of conflict, the industry adapted, developing streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music that share revenue with creators. Could news publishers and aggregators chart a similar path? Some analysts believe so. They point to experiments in revenue sharing and premium aggregation. Imagine paying a single monthly fee, not to just one newspaper, but to a trusted aggregator that unlocks access to hundreds of top-tier sources, with revenue distributed fairly among publishers. This model is already being trialed in Scandinavia and parts of Central Europe. In Norway, for example, platforms have partnered with leading national newspapers, offering bundled access for subscribers while ensuring that each publisher is compensated for their work. Early results suggest this approach can restore balance to the ecosystem, benefiting both newsrooms and aggregators. But rolling out such models is no small feat. It demands trust, transparency, and a shared willingness to innovate. Publishers need to see aggregators as partners, not adversaries. Aggregators must uphold rigorous editorial standards, ethical content selection, and fair revenue sharing. Regulation can also play a part in sharing. In Australia, for instance, the government has required tech giants to negotiate with news outlets, resulting in landmark deals that have helped fund public interest journalism. The European Union is debating similar approaches, with new copyright directives designed to strengthen the bargaining power of news organizations versus online platforms. For now, the picture remains patchwork. Some publishers have chosen to block aggregators outright, hoping to funnel readers directly to their own websites. Others use partial paywalls, combining free and premium content. Many smaller and independent outlets still rely on aggregators like NewsNow for visibility and survival. In many cases, the decision is driven by resources. Large, established brands may have the muscle to stand alone, while smaller players depend on the extra audience that aggregation delivers. Layered atop these economic dynamics is the rapidly advancing world of artificial intelligence. AI is reshaping the news landscape at breakneck speed. On the one hand, AI tools can help journalists analyze data, summarize complex reports, or identify breaking stories in real time. On the other hand, AI-generated articles, some of astonishing sophistication, are flooding the web. While some provide value, others are used to churn out clickbait, propaganda, or outright misinformation at a scale never before imagined. This digital deluge threatens to drown out credible reporting, making it ever harder for readers to separate fact from fiction. In this challenging environment, the role of aggregators like NewsNow is evolving. To maintain trust, NewsNow has doubled down on editorial standards. Its team of 7 editors vigilantly reviews sources, removing those that fail to meet basic journalistic criteria or spread conspiracy theories. By spotlighting independent, local, and niche journalism, NewsNow amplifies voices that might otherwise be lost in the noise. As one media analyst puts it, aggregators can be a lifeline for small newsrooms, surfacing unique perspectives and underreported issues that would otherwise go unseen. Yet, even as NewsNow strives to uphold quality, its very success can make it a target. As more publishers retreat behind paywalls or block their content, the risk grows that the internet will fracture into a patchwork of gated communities, each zealously guarding its own audience and revenue. The dream of a truly global, open conversation is under threat, replaced by a landscape where information is harder and more expensive to access. This brings us to a vital question. What can ordinary readers do as these tectonic shifts play out? First, it is crucial to recognize that how you access news is changing, often in subtle, almost invisible ways. If your favorite aggregator suddenly can't deliver stories from trusted sources, it is not just a technical hiccup. It is the visible edge of a much larger battle over control of information. Second, this is a call to diversify your news diet. Don't depend solely on one aggregator or a handful of familiar headlines. Make an effort to seek out different outlets, including independent, regional, and specialized newsrooms that offer perspectives you might never encounter otherwise. Supporting independent journalism by subscribing, donating, or sharing their stories can help maintain a vibrant, pluralistic media landscape. Third, stay alert to the dangers of misinformation. With artificial intelligence making it easier than ever to produce convincing fake news, deepfakes, and other digital deceptions, media literacy is more important than ever. Learn the hallmarks of credible reporting, cross-check stories against multiple reputable sources, and be especially skeptical of sensational or unverified claims, particularly those circulating on social media and aggregator platforms. Fourth, use your voice as both a citizen and a consumer. If you value open access to quality news, advocate for solutions that balance the interests of publishers, aggregators, and the public. Support platforms that are upfront about their editorial standards and dedicated to serving the public good. Take part in conversations online and offline about the future of journalism and access to information. The choices you make, individually and collectively, will help shape the information landscape for generations to come. Let's zoom out and consider the broader societal implications. Access to information is not just about convenience. It is a public good. In vibrant democracies around the world, free and open journalism underpins everything from fair elections to effective public health campaigns. As barriers to access rise, whether through paywalls, censorship, or opaque algorithms, the costs are paid by all of us. Communities become less informed, public debate grows more polarized, and the space for shared understanding and compromise shrinks. But there are reasons for hope. History shows that media ecosystems are remarkably resilient. When old models crumble, new ones often spring up in their place. In the early 20th century, the arrival of radio and then television revolutionized news consumption, prompting fears that newspapers would vanish. Instead, the industry adapted, evolving new ways to reach audiences and generate revenue. The digital era is forcing a similar reckoning. While today's challenges are daunting, they also open doors for creativity, innovation, and renewal. Already, we see promising experiments taking shape. Joint ventures between news organizations and tech platforms are being trialed worldwide. Some aggregators are testing micropayments, allowing readers to pay small amounts for individual articles rather than committing to expensive, long-term subscriptions. Others are investing in investigative journalism funds, supporting training programs, and forming partnerships to sustain high-quality reporting. Nonprofit models, backed by philanthropy or even public funding, are gaining traction too, ensuring that essential news remains accessible to everyone, regardless of their ability to pay. At the same time, NewsNow and similar platforms are not standing still. Despite mounting pressures, NewsNow still manages to drive roughly 70 million article views every month to news providers, a striking demonstration of the ongoing value that collaboration can deliver. This vast, diverse audience includes students researching assignments, professionals tracking industry trends, activists monitoring political change, and everyday citizens striving to understand their world. The platform's reach proves that when aggregators and publishers cooperate, they can create not just economic value, but social value, helping to inform, engage, and empower society as a whole. As we look toward the horizon, let's remember what is at stake. The health of our information ecosystem is more than a matter of convenience or corporate profits. It is the very foundation of democratic life, social cohesion, and collective progress. Whether aggregators and publishers can forge a sustainable path forward remains an open question. But one thing is certain: standing still is not an option. Innovation, collaboration, and a shared commitment to the public good will be vital if we are to preserve and expand the promise of open, accessible information in the digital era. So what is your perspective? Will quality news become harder to find, locked behind digital gates? Or are we on the verge of a new era of openness and collaboration? Could innovative models restore the open flow of information for everyone? Or will we find ourselves living in a walled garden, accessible only to a privileged few? Share your views in the comments below. Let your voice be part of this crucial conversation. And if this deep dive has given you new insights, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more explorations at the crossroads of global economics and technology. Because ultimately, the future